on the last event of the Arab Center for Research and Policy Studies before heading over the weekend, heading to the Eid holidays. Eid Mubarak to everyone. My name is Mehran Kamrava. I am director of the Iranian Studies Unit here at the Arab Center for Research and Policy Studies, and I'm also professor of government at Georgetown University in Qatar. It's a pleasure to welcome all of you here and to particularly welcome a colleague whom I have known for a number of years, and we first met in Tehran a number of years ago. I think it was in 2019, and I was at Professor Tishayar's university in Allame Tabatabai University, where Professor Tishayar is a professor of political science and also the vice president for research at the university. And I last had the pleasure of being part of the same conference with Professor Tishayar in Uzbekistan a couple of months ago in historic city of Samarkand. And it was there where I got the idea of inviting her. And I thought it would be too good for her to say yes, she would come, because she's extremely busy and travels all over Central Asia and the Middle East. And to my delight, she accepted the invitation and she agreed to come. So today she will talk about Iran's new geopolitical features. I just heard from her that early this morning the Iranian Supreme Leader gave a rather interesting talk about his position about the United States. So this talk is extremely topical and relevant. So please join me in welcoming Professor Mandana Tishayar.
In the name of God, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished professors, researchers, and ambassadors, good afternoon, I have to say. Actually, it's both an honor and a pleasure for me to participate in this meeting, and I would like to appreciate the initiative of Arab Center for Policy Studies and especially Iranian Studies Unit for gathering us to discuss about the new geopolitical features of our region, especially Iran's position toward this new situation. But before starting to talk about the geopolitical changes in our region, I just want to make a brief review on the factors that mostly impact the foreign policy of each country. Actually, in our classes, we mostly discuss about the rule that governments, the key role that governments play to shape the foreign policy and run the foreign policy of a country, how parliaments, especially the foreign policy commissions in each parliament, play a role to influence the foreign policy of a country, how lobby groups and political parties try to impact the trend of foreign policy making, how public opinion, especially medias, try to put pressure on foreign policy makers and ask them to change their foreign policy. And in some countries, commercials, traders play a key role to define the structure of foreign policy of a country. Also, as you know, religious groups, ethnic groups, in some countries, military institutions, intelligence services, all of them play a role to influence the foreign policy making process. And also, as we know, scholars and experts, unfortunately, in few countries can play such a kind of role. But between all of these factors, it seems that geopolitics is more stable. And you can define it as a factor that can run the foreign policy of a country for a long term. You cannot cut your country from one part of the world and put it in another part of the world. You cannot change the place of rivers, mountains. You cannot change the geopolitical feature of your country easily. So it's an important factor. We should consider it as more stable and then think about it, how geopolitics dictates the foreign policy of a country. But interestingly, in recent few years, the geopolitics of our region is changing very fast. When I talk about this map and call it a region, actually you can see, based on classical definition of region, you can see different regions. South Asia, Central Asia, Caucasus, West Asia, and even you can talk about sub-regions in this map. But I want to say that in general, this picture shows a region with a lot of commonalities, with a lot of similar things between people who live there. As we want to talk about geopolitics, I just want to show one of the factors, important factors that connects people who live in these different territories to each other, which is the common historical background. If we look at these four maps, the blue color shows the Achaemenid Empire 2,500 years ago. You can see that people from different countries, today countries, live together under one umbrella. The orange color shows the territories that was captured by Alexander 4 centuries later, and the green color shows the Islamic Empire about 1,400 years ago. And the red color shows the Mughal Empire about 700 years ago. And as you see, more or less, the maps are similar. They cover the same region. So if you ask about the Mughal Empire from the people in our different countries in this region, their memories are the same, more or less. So we can say that this region, the people who live in such a vast part of the world, have common historical background, and this is only one of the factors that connects them to each other. Interestingly, we can see that in recent years, the civil societies in these different countries has changed rapidly. The level of awareness has increased, and the number of well-educated people also has increased. So it shows that we can expect new social changes in different countries in our region. On the other hand, if we follow the news, the trends, the reports, easily we can see that the powerful countries from other parts of the world are interested in making some changes in this region and make new order. So I just want to make a brief review on recent events in this region and how these events impacted Iran's geopolitical position regionally. It was in 2021 that we wanted to celebrate the anniversary of signing Friendship Pact between Iran and Afghanistan after 100 years. And my university, Allame Tabatabai University, and Iranian Peace Studies Association invited scholars from both countries, Iranians and Afghans, to write short notes about relations between the two countries and the future aspect of this relation. During 2 weeks, we received about 63 short notes, and we published this book, In the Shadow of the Century-Old Friendship Tree. But all of them talked about a good future for good relations between the two countries, but less than 2 months later, we saw the reality of the fall of big cities of Afghanistan one by one. from Mazar to Herat to Kabul. So many changes suddenly happened in Afghanistan. The 20 years period of republic finished in this country. Taliban reached to power. They are in power till now. And so inside Iran, two different discourses, two main discourses raised up. One discourse put its emphasis on working with Taliban as a part of the pivot of resistance, and another one said that Taliban is against Shia people, Taliban is against Persian language, so how we can work with them. So it's better to support the opposition groups, especially Ahmad Massoud, who he and his father are very well known in Iran between academia and between the civil society. After 4 years, we can see that the second discourse shows that it is true, because after Taliban reached to power, we can say that eastern border of Iran, its geopolitics has changed rapidly, and it's not safe anymore, compared to the years before. A few months later, in February 2022, we faced a new situation. The Russia-Ukraine war started, and deliberately or undeliberately, Iran found itself in between, So it was a lot of pressures by the European Union, other countries against Iran. Iran received a lot new sanctions because they said Iran is supporting Russia. Although ex-foreign minister Amir Abdullahian, God bless him, announced that Iran sold the drones to Russia few months before starting the war. But Iran was in between, and its relations with different countries in Eastern Europe and the Balkan also was impacted by this new war. Again, few months later, October 7 started, and we know the story that what did happen, how the situation changed like a domino game in Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, and other parts of the world, and how the geopolitical feature of Iran in the western part of its borders changed very fast, very rapidly. But the story is not ended here, actually. If you remember, there was a very short missile strike between Iran and Pakistan for 2-3 days. It was short, but it showed that how much this potentiality is in the region, in the southeast part of Iran. And the recent crisis between Pakistan and India also showed that how the situation, the geopolitical situation of the region can change rapidly. And also in the Caucasus region. Since 2020, the war between Azerbaijan and Armenia made a lot of geopolitical changes in this region. Turkey, Russia, and Iran, as traditional players, are playing in this region, but new players are coming. India and Pakistan are more active in this part of the world. And still, we don't have a clear picture of the geopolitical changes in this part. So as you see, a lot of changes happened very fast during a short period of time, although, as I said, geopolitics is more stable. It is expected to be more stable than other factors that shape the foreign policy of a country. Now, let's go back to our map. The key question here is the regional geopolitical order going to change? Shall we expect such a kind of change, and shall we define a new level of geopolitical order in the region? So, it's, all of the things that I tried to explain very shortly and briefly here, was based on the classical definition of regionalism. But recently, we can see that new regions based on new reasons are going to be developed. The things that I talked about them, the crises that I tried to mention here, are in one hand, but the picture can be seen from another side also. During the same period of time, Iran joined the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. This is the map of this organization. After ages, Iran could enter such an organization, and as you see, this map covers different countries in the previous map that we discussed about it. So Iran is working with some neighboring countries and neighboring regions in a new level of collaboration in the framework of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Iran entered to this organization in July 2023. A few months later, in December 2023, Iran signed the free trade agreement with the Eurasian Economic Union. This union covers some countries in Central Asia, in Caucasus, and also in the greater Eurasia, as Russians explain. So before that, Iran was not collaborating in this framework with different countries in the region. So this is a new level of collaboration between Iran and its neighboring regions. The third matter, in January 2024, Iran joined BRICS. So this is the BRICS map. As you see, Iran is trying to define its foreign policy in a new level of geopolitical collaboration with different countries. And the interesting thing is that the meaning of region also is changing rapidly, not only for Iran, but for many different countries of the world. Nowadays, we face newborn regions. Let's go back to this map. Shanghai Cooperation Organization covers countries in East Asia, North Asia, Central Asia, and South Asia. But in total, they make the Shanghai region, SCO region. So this is a new definition of the region. And we can see that how they collaborate not only on security matters, but economically, culturally, and the other things. Eurasian Economic Union is trying to define a new region. The meaning of region has changed. And especially BRICS is a good example. In BRICS, we have countries from Latin America to Africa to East Asia. But in total, they are talking about BRICS region. And BRICS region is not only based on economic collaboration, but they are collaborating with each other on different subjects. So the new definition of region is not impacted only Iran's foreign policy, but many other countries. Now we can say that region is what we perceive, not necessarily what is defined on the map. So it seems that we can think about organizing and creating new regions based on new subjects. Why? Because neo-regionalism says that not only geographical flexibility is a matter, but the subject of collaboration also is open. You can choose different subjects to make new regions and collaborate with different countries. So the result is that the concepts of self and other face new evolution. So the countries that you define them as your other, now they can collaborate with you in a new framework. The level of collaboration can change easily. And an important factor here is that in this framework, neo-regionalism is based on culture-based security. Culture is playing a key role to shape the new regions. even when we look at BRICS, you can see that culturally or identically, they call themselves as a part of South, South part of the world. And they are uniting with each other, they are collaborating with each other against the North, for example. The same situation is seen in Shanghai Cooperation Organization. They are defining themselves beyond economic or security collaboration. They are trying to find common cultural values to connect them to each other. And so in this regard, we can see that foreign policymakers, although still they are diplomats, politicians, military personnel, but social activists also can play a role, cultural figures, and especially academia, professors and students. It's not a new phenomenon. It started from the European Union when the European countries started to collaborate with each other scientifically and developed common European values, common European culture. But it seems that other parts of the world, other new regions also follow the same policy. So exploring regional science diplomacy is a new matter that Iran also is trying to use this capacity to develop its relations with other countries and shape new model of regionalism in this part of the world. So, and making social ties among civil societies, the civil societies that are more well-educated, are more connected to each other by new communication technologies, can help people and governments to reread the common history, redefine shared cultural norms and values, develop the compatibility and tolerance, and also moderation in the region. So let's go back to our map and see that if a new order is supposed to be shaped, is it from outside or can be raised up from inside by the countries that are here? Iran has two options: to follow new neighborhood policy, the model that was applied by Europe since 1990s and tried to catch its neighbors in the east and south part of Europe, or I don't know if the translation is true or not for hamsayedari in Persian. I choose this new word, neighbor care policy, something to having good relations with neighbors, putting emphasis on cultural commonalities, on the common values, and try to define new model of collaboration in the region in the framework of new organizations, new institutions, and new trends. So as Hafez Shirazi, the famous Persian poet, said in 14th century, عالمی دیگر بباید ساخت وزن و آدمی. A world anew we must create, and man reborn of nobler estate. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Tishayar. That was fantastic, and what a perfect way to end the talk than a poem by Hafez Shirazi. Really appreciate it. We have some time for questions, but before I open it up, I wanted to ask, in terms of Iran's attempt at becoming a member of some of these regional alliances, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, BRICS, and in Eurasia and elsewhere, to what extent has that succeeded in integrating Iran into, I don't want to say community of nations, but to what extent has it succeeded in helping Iran improve its multilateral and bilateral relations with various countries? You mentioned that For example, after the Ukraine war, Iran's relations with many European and particularly Balkan states deteriorated. Relations with the United States impact Iran's relations with a number of other countries. So to what extent has this regionalism helped or hindered Iran's foreign policy agendas?
Actually, I think that this new policy, this multilateralism, and trying to develop collaboration with different countries, different regions, in different levels, can change the situation and opens new doors for collaboration between Iran and countries in different parts of the world. So it opens the doors and makes new opportunities, I think. Yeah.
So I think if you were a betting person, just to put you on the spot, looking down the road 5 years from now, what kind of a profile of Iran as a regional actor and an international actor are we going to see?
Actually, I belong to the academia, but I just suppose that I can predict the future, and I think that if we follow this policy, we can see that how we will have an integrated region from different aspects, especially we can start from cultural and academic collaboration and develop it to other levels of collaboration. So I think the missed link here is the connection between our societies to each other. Although the governments are in contact, but the societies are separated. So providing connections between different societies in our region can change the policies, foreign policies of the governments too.
Right. 5 years ago, if we were sitting here, we couldn't dream about a positive relationship between Iran and Saudi Arabia, for example, or Iran and the United Arab Emirates. But today, there's at least there's diplomatic relations, if not fraternal relations between these states. And I agree that I think, for example, one of the best ways to improve relations is through tourism. And so people would understand each other, have a better sense of one another. Thank you. Are there any questions that I think your talk was so comprehensive. There aren't any questions. Can you say a couple of things about Iran's relations with the United States, and particularly in light of Iran's efforts at regional integration, the pressures on Iran, both domestically and internationally, and the desire on the part of Donald Trump to win the Nobel Prize, and therefore have peace between Iran and some sort of negotiations between Iran and the United States?
Actually, I want to connect it to the regional situation. President of the United States was in Qatar and some other countries in the region a few weeks ago. And it shows that how regional connectivity and collaboration between Iran and its neighbors in the south part of the Persian Gulf can impact the negotiation between Iran and the superpowers. How good relations between us can support the successful negotiation. And I just would like to add that yesterday, President Pezeshkian announced that Iran is going to join APEC. And we know how much it changed Iran's position, one country from West Asia based on classic definition of regions is going to collaborate with APEC, and we know that different countries from different parts of the world are member of this organization. So in both neighboring regions and countries in the eastern part of Asia, Iran is trying to change its position, which helps it for a better negotiation and better collaboration with neighboring friends and region.
So is that why the Iranian foreign minister went to Lebanon and Egypt?
And Egypt, yeah, that's true.
And when he was in Lebanon, at least I didn't hear any conversation about Hezbollah, the Iran's relationship, and he was actually keen to establish relations with the new Lebanese government, which is calling for disarmament of Hezbollah, which is kind of a radical departure from Iran's foreign policy in many ways. Yes, sir.
Maybe the same question as Professor Kamrafar was asking about the relation with the European Union. So I'm kind of curious about how our views about the EU, Iran, and also in the historical perspective.
So I'll repeat the question for the benefit of those who are streaming. The question is about Iran's relations with the European Union. Is that right, Your Excellency? And
maybe also within separate countries within the EU.
and separate countries within the European Union, both as a union and individually,
Iran,
bilaterally.
as you know, Iran always defined its relations with the European countries in two levels, bilaterally and collaborating with the Union as total. During the JCPOA negotiation, Iran always tried to keep relations with the European countries. Nowadays, also, we can see that Foreign Minister Araghchi visited different countries in Europe, discussed with its counterparts, tried to make put all of them in one circle for this new round of negotiation. So although the situation has changed, the level of negotiation also has changed, but still it is clear that Iran is interested to develop its relations not only on the nuclear issue, but on other aspects of collaboration with the European counterparts. Yeah.
Let me ask an undiplomatic question. Recently, there was a meeting at the deputy minister level between Iran and France, Britain, and Germany in Istanbul over the nuclear question. Are the Europeans going to act as spoilers in a negotiation between Iran and the United States?
I don't know, actually. Really, I don't know. Yeah.
Because they were not involved, and the Trump administration has bypassed them. Perfect. No other questions? Yes, sir. Your Excellency.
During the course of your very enlightening talk, you mentioned about the new hyphenations of the region and new definitions of the region. And at the same time, you said that Iran is weighing the options to engage with the regional countries culturally and all that. Don't you think that these two are having a dichotomy, these two approaches are having a dichotomy? And this cultural affiliation and hyphenation has failed in the past, and the very definition of the new regions which you highlighted, it's against this. Thank you.
You know, actually, in recent decades, the importance of the rule of culture in regional collaboration was not as much as today. You know, regions created based on economic collaboration, political reasons, security matters, and like this. But nowadays, not only Iran, but other countries are trying to find the capacity of cultural collaboration between different countries. This is why that in recent years, Iran's main foreign policy approach has been based on neighborhood policy and try to collaborate not only with its Western neighbors, but also with Central Asian countries, with South Asian countries, and like this.
Perfect. Professor Tishayar, you've given us a very hopeful prognosis.
Yeah.
I do hope that as we move to the future, there would be greater regional collaboration and regional understanding.
I hope so.
And hopefully we'll bring you back. You'll agree to come back in a couple of years or next year, and we'll take the conversation one level further.
Thank
Please join me in thanking Professor Tishiar. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us. Really appreciate it.